Well, look at this. It's the modest home of Springfield lawyer Abraham Lincoln. We're back on Route 66 in Springfield, Illinois, making our way to Chicago. And of course, you cannot come through Springfield, Illinois on Route 66 without stopping at the home of our 16th president, one Abraham Lincoln. 2 years ago on our last Route 66 trip, London and I did enter the house and take the full Lincoln tour, as we've done many times before on Random Land. So today we're just admiring the exterior of the Lincoln home, and of course the interiors of some of the other buildings on the street, which you don't need a ticket for, in this very well-preserved National Historic Site. Everybody always talks about Mr. Lincoln's house, but no one ever mentions that they got the whole neighborhood preserved out here. And it's been a must-stop for Route 66 travelers for 100 years now. Speaking of which, inside the Visitor Center, they do have a bunch of Route 66 paraphernalia, including Route 66-opoly. I wonder what old Honest Abe would have thought of that. Last time we were here, not only did we go inside the Lincoln home, we went inside the Great Lincoln Museum and into and behind the scenes at Mr. Lincoln's tomb. But there was one thing that was closed in Springfield the last time we came through that I would like to go and see. Especially as we cannot call on Mr. Lincoln today. It turns out he's out of the house. Although, what the heck? Richard Nixon? Obviously, part of Mr. Lincoln's success was that he moved here to Springfield, which was and is, of course, the state capital of Illinois. The perfect place for a young lawyer to get into politics. But this building we're looking at was actually built a few years after Abraham Lincoln's death. It's not the building that Mr. Lincoln would have been politicking in, which fortunately still exists. And, of course, it's right off the original Route 66. There's a cat cafe right in front of the state capitol, right near old Route 66. Dude, if we weren't pressed for time, London and I would have been in that cat cafe in 2 seconds. We've never been in one. It's about a 10-minute walk from Lincoln's house to the old state capitol, right along old Route 66. And as you go along, it's like stepping back in time because the buildings start getting older and older. So not only are you walking in Lincoln's footsteps, as he would have taken this exact path to work, but you are literally walking into Abraham Lincoln's Springfield. Look at that building right there. That was the home of the Lincoln and Herndon Law Office. You can see it's just across from the old state capitol where Mr. Abraham Lincoln spent plenty of time. We've got a little slice of the 1850s and 60s right here. But for the U.S. history fan is absolutely magical. And look at this, right in front of his old law office, maybe stepping out to go across to the Capitol, is Mr. Lincoln and Mrs. Mary Todd Lincoln fixing his coat over here. He was a bit of a scruff, but that's why we love him. My favorite thing is that Lincoln's two boys are out here also. There's one over here with the fam and one over here walking away. Those Lincoln boys always were wild. Always up to no good, those Lincoln boys. Dude, pretty darn amazing. Literally walking in the footsteps of Abraham Lincoln. The weird thing is the old Lincoln Herndon Law Office was the visitor center last time we were here. It seemed relatively new, but it's being gutted and reconstructed already. So the visitor center is closed. But the state capitol that was closed last time we were here is open. Dude, and look at it. There it is. After all this glorious reconstruction and restoration. They're still working on it, obviously. That's why there's a ramp leading up the steps. At least I assume that's why there's a ramp leading up the steps. This was the state capitol building from 1839 to 1876. And because of its Lincoln connections, obviously it's a very historic place. Barack Obama even announced his candidacy for the presidency here on the South Lawn. So it's still making history even in the 21st century. Oh, do you know what? London was walking around on the bottom. Maybe this ramp is just here for access. Kind of strange looking, but all right. I'll take it, dude. Look at this. Look at how weathered and aged those columns are right there. I know how they feel. And these look like new doors to me, unless they're just very restored. Oh, wow. Wow. Dude, look at this beautiful building, a place Abraham Lincoln was awfully familiar with. This all just reopened in March of 2026, and now they have this artifact room. Look at this here, the treasure box of the Illinois Territory. Guess that would be the treasurer's box, right? A piece from the remodeling of the old county courthouse. I don't see any Lincoln-specific artifacts, but there is a lot in here. Although look at this, they don't know, but this may be an Illinois Senate desk dating all the way back to 1855. So you never know, Lincoln could have sat at that desk. Oh, look at this. Here's the first secessionist flag captured by Illinoisans during the Civil War. And whoa, look at the old state library room. I think it's amazing that you can just walk in and wander the building. I don't know much about the legal processes of being in and around a state capitol. So it's kind of interesting to wander around to see the Secretary of State office, or look at this across the building on the other side, the Supreme Court of Illinois. Pretty darn amazing, pretty darn small, man. It was so intimate in here. No wonder Lincoln knew all the major players. Also a really oddly placed column, right? Watch out for the spittoon, that's original. Anyway, all this is neat and great, but let's not forget that there are rooms upstairs as well, including the most important one. Because upstairs here in the old state capitol, not only do you have the Senate chamber across the way, but here at the top of the stairs, Representative Hall, where some of Lincoln's most famous words were spoken, because it was here in Representative Hall that he gave his famous House Divided speech. June 16th, 1858, Abraham Lincoln stood right here in this room. He was running for the U.S. Senate against Stephen Douglas. And this speech made waves all over the country. A house divided against itself cannot stand. But more importantly, he said, I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. Words that may have touched off the Civil War. Because of course, when Lincoln was elected President of the United States in 1860, all the Southerners were going back over his speech and go, see, he wants to take away our property. But more importantly, perhaps even than the House Divided speech, this room right here, Representative Hall, is where they brought Lincoln back to Springfield on his final trip. And this is where he lay in state for the final time before his funeral service at Oak Ridge Cemetery. And it's crazy because they moved everything else out of here for the Lincoln laying in state, except for that portrait of George Washington that is still in the room today. And look at right beneath Washington is Lincoln's stovepipe hat. Well, a stovepipe hat to represent Lincoln. It's the two presidents that share President's Day. That must have been crazy in here. The House Divided speech would have been raucous and wild and politicking, but the funeral procession, Lincoln Langan stayed here. Hundreds, thousands of people would have filed past from Springfield who knew him. Yeah, very solemn place actually, when you think of it that way. And there's a great recreation of that scene, I believe, inside of the museum here in town, which is absolutely insane. We would go in there today, but man, once you step in there, you are in there for hours and hours and hours. Look at all these artifacts in here. A lot of displays about Illinois' contribution to the Civil War. It's an absolutely beautiful building. It's so white. All the walls are so bright and shining. Hey, Ulysses S. Grant, another great Illinoisan. Look at all these rooms restored. A beautiful portrait of Lincoln off in that one. Oh, here's the governor's office in the Capitol. And even the governor has got a bust of Lincoln in there. And look at this. Look at the governor's reception room. Abraham Lincoln stood right here and received visitors after he had won the election. When he was president-elect, he used this very room to do his meet and greet. That I find amazing, right? Look at those two windows to the left and that one there, and then come and look at this engraving. That's amazing. By the way, all of this is absolutely free as we cross over to the Senate chamber over here. All this is absolutely free to visit. You can do a suggested donation of $5 or $10. By the way, I think I accidentally ended up on the wrong side of this bar over. I don't think I'm supposed to be over here. I don't think this door right here is supposed to be open. Anyway, yes, it's all just a suggested donation. Technically, Abraham Lincoln's house is also free to visit, as well as his tomb. So there's a lot of Lincolning that you can do in town for free, really, on your trip down Route 66. It's very important. Also, there are bricks. I don't know what the bricks are from. Maybe they are there to step on because they're historic, but I'm afraid, what if they're like sacred bricks or something? So I'm not gonna risk it. Anyway, awesome, spending a little time in Mr. Lincoln's Springfield, the old state capitol. Dude, I'm glad it's reopened and free to enter. We're still gonna leave a little donation in the little box. All right, that's pretty much it for downtown Springfield. We have got to keep moving along because we're not on a Lincoln trip, we're on a Route 66 trip. By the way, we did run into the old state capitol's Route 66 ambassador, Amanda, who I know better as the Ween Queen 77. Instagram, who caught us just in time to give us our Illinois Route 66 pins for the centennial and gave us a Wienermobile. I'm going to go ahead and say, go look at her Instagram for yourself. She is the world's number one Wienermobile fan and expert. I don't think there's anybody who's more obsessed. Dude, it was a must-do stop. Great place to celebrate America's 250th birthday, Route 66's 100th birthday, with our tied for first greatest president. And it's amazing that the mother road, Route 66, pretty much comes basically to Lincoln's front doorstep. All right, well, we hopped back onto old Route 66, but we weren't quite done with Mr. Lincoln yet, because we did, of course, go to his final resting place, to his tomb, and pay our respects in person. And of course, not far away, in the Illinois State Fairgrounds, we paid our respects to skinny young Mr. Lincoln and drove by the Illinois Route 66 experience during the daytime, just to give it another glance. We were out there the other night when the neon was all on, of course. And honestly, there's enough Route 66 and Route 66 things in Springfield. We could have stayed here for a lot longer. But there's more to see on the mother road, and so we better get back to it. Don't worry though, this is Illinois Route 66. There will be more Abraham Lincoln along our path. Just rolling out of Springfield, out of Sherman, Illinois here, which is a pretty nice looking town. Not really too much that's old or weird or worth stopping at unless you look for this. Right on the side of the wider, newer alignment is the old original alignment of Route 66 at this little memorial rest area. And there would have been a bridge down there at the dead end over there, over the creek. Actually, if you walk around on the main highway, you can get around to another section of this. It's a little more grassy, but hey, I'll take it. It's a nice transition from the Lincoln history back to what we're here for. Here we go. Here's the name, the Sherman Wayside Park. It's one of the few original Route 66 waysides, little picnic areas along the side of the road. I love any old piece of ghost road, man. Any old piece of original 66. Now in Illinois, there are some portions where they built the freeway right on top of the old road, so you really don't have much choice. But not to worry, there are still plenty of sick deviations. Like here we go, here's a little patch in Williamsville, Illinois. Another beautiful little town that gets crisscrossed by multiple alignments of old Route 66. Look at this little Williamsville depot out here with two old box cars as a museum. It's not open today, sadly, but it's a nice little Route 66 detour where you can learn a little bit about the railroad in the area. Just do a little walkabout. One of those little villages that's postcard cute. I particularly like this old truck out here sitting underneath the grain silos. Got some old buildings out here, a little coffee shop. There's a Route 66 mural up there on the side of that old building. It's an Italian food restaurant. Little flower boxes under the windows. Gorgeous little place, right? The American dream, that little small town that takes a lot of pride in its appearance and in its history. Look at this. All this little history information here on the side of this old building. Gorgeous little place, middle America. You can imagine just how exciting it would have been for the highway to come through this town. All the traffic between Chicago and St. Louis. Travelers going all the way out to, or coming all the way out from California like us. The sign here says Williamsville had over a dozen gas stations back in the day. And this old marathon station apparently dates back to the 1950s. Just the kind of place I love to walk around. Oh, and look at this, right on old Route 66, they got another little museum and public library, and a Route 66 signpost with foreign countries on the little signs instead of American towns along Route 66. Look at this, we are 4,300 miles from Paris. And look at this at the base, a little chunk of the original pavement of Route 66. I wanted to get my kicks on it, but my kicks are too powerful. I might kick it over. Just love all these little stretches of road that take you to places you would never go otherwise. Just look at that. Look at that beautiful two-lane curving highway. I get to experience it in a way I've never experienced it before because London is driving. Dude, I freaking love it out here. America. And look at this. Does it get more American than Elkhart, Illinois? Just a little agricultural community along the railroad tracks along old Route 66. Look at this mural. They pretty much captured the ins and outs of the whole town right there. But I love this. Look at this ghost writing up here. I don't know what they were selling. $4. And look at this around the corner. It's closed right now, but look at Elkhart Station, which has got a pretty sick Route 66 mural here on the side. And across the street in the old bank building, you've got antiques and gifts, the Wild Hare Cafe. Ooh, Elkhart Station is gonna get a new restaurant and bar. It is very, very quiet here. Look at this, we got the Logan County Visitors Welcome Center, country bumpkin, vintage collectibles, gifts, and more. We're gonna go in there in a second. And look at this. Look at this little hobby store right here, the Route 66 model raceway. And look who's sitting on the porch, it's Ronald. I was gonna sit down next to Ronald, but there's a wasp's nest right inside the handle for that old pickup truck tailgate there. Dude, look at that old garage right there. I wonder if they used to sell gasoline as well. Looks like they have a little Veterans Memorial Park out here in the old downtown. That's a very cool statue of a World War I soldier. All right, going into Country Bumpkin now, see what's going on. Oh no, no power today. The power is out. Oh, look at that. Glass George Washington in here. This is pretty cool little antique store. Luckily, it's broad daylight so we could see. Yeah, I see how that could put a wrinkle in the plans, having no power today. We can still get some visitor information. That was so funny, dude. Just no power. It's like, well, you're welcome to look around. At least we got a map. Ah, I forgot to put on my sunglasses. It burns. Yeah, I always try to support the mom and pops. We gave it our best shot, but we couldn't buy nothing because the power was out. Hope you don't mind the paying change. All right, we got a bunch of miles to cover now. We got to keep on going before the sun goes down. On the main street of America, Route 66. All right, we've ridden the old road along to the town of Lincoln, Illinois. And believe it or not, it was not named for President Abraham Lincoln or even in honor of him after his death. This town was named for him while he was still alive, before he was president. And look at this, once again, multiple paths of Route 66 to enjoy. And look at this, right along the oldest alignment, there's an amazing stop right here. It is The Mill. This place started out in 1929 as a sandwich shop and was expanded in 1945 when it was painted burgundy and they added a surplus barracks from World War II to become a dance hall and bar room. Well, the mill went out of business. Eventually the building was abandoned, but obviously it's been restored and it's been reopened as sort of a museum and tourist stop. The Mill on 66. We're about to head in there in a second, but I just wanted to mention this. Across the way is a former sort of, well, complex of buildings. Originally, there was a school for feeble-minded children over there. That's probably where they would have sent me. And then there was correctional facilities and stuff, but there's this big abandoned complex over here. Nobody talks about it. I'd love to explore, but I'm not much of a trespasser. Ah, yeah, look at this. Logan County did a heck of a job. Originally, I think it was blue and white, like a Dutch windmill. It was painted burgundy when they did that big expansion and added this old World War II barracks once the war was over. Oh yeah, look at that. It says right there, opened in 1929. It is now a museum. I'm just glad it's open, man. Everything's been closed today. Oh, and look at this, not only open, but they've got power. There's power in here, London. Oh, sweet, dude. Look at that old gas pump right there. Look at this. Some replica speakers from a drive-in theater. And I don't know what's up with this robot, but I love him. Oh, here's some of the original fixtures saved from the Mill restaurant. Oh no, somebody's foot went through the floor. Oh, we saw the old sign along the side of the road, but look at this. They have an even older, original Pig Hip restaurant sign. The Pig Hip was pretty popular along Route 66. It does no longer exist today. It's a weird way of phrasing it, but you know what I mean. Look at this, they still got the original mailbox. I guess people don't like eating pig as much as they used to. But clearly, at one point, pig was super hip to eat. Look at all this paraphernalia they've got in here. They may not have saved the building, but man, they saved everything else. Oh, this is another place. Look at this old tiki-themed bar and restaurant. The Tropics. They have preserved and restored that sign. It's along Route 66 in another part of Lincoln. We might see that in a little bit. Look at this. Wow. The last original booth from the Mill from 1929. And they've got the original cornerstone, which just makes me question, how's the building standing up then? Look at this place. It used to be famous for its schnitzel. Oh, that's cool. They have some of the furnishings from the Tropics as well. Look at that. Look at the bamboo on the back of the booths. Look at the old menu there, some old photos. I love me some Route 66. I also love me some tiki. All right, going on further on in. Wow, look at that. They still got the bar in here. Ooh, some original Tropics matchbooks. I gotta get some of those. They also have some cool one-of-a-kind ceramic coasters in here, which I've grabbed as well. Look at this. They got a little Route 66 hood that you can sign. If you can find a spot. Okay, I found a spot right above Mr. Lincoln's head. Okay, this is cool. All right, well, at least I'm glad we stopped in to see the home of the schnitzel. And look at this sign on the way out. I didn't realize the barracks here were from a POW camp from World War II. Anyway, as I was saying, on into Lincoln, which was indeed named for Abraham Lincoln, but like I said, before he was president, when he was just a humble lawyer, he was the guy that helped do all the documentation and all the planning so they could open this town up along the old railroad tracks. But we'll get to that story in a little bit. Before it was Lincoln, however, it was Postville, and this was the site of the old Logan County Courthouse, where Abraham Lincoln served as a humble lawyer when he was riding around on the circuit. He had to attend court twice a year here in this building, or well, I believe this is a reconstruction of the original building. Look at this. You can still enter the building and go up the creaky stairs into the replica courthouse. This is amazing. Now, they were able to reconstruct this building with some pretty good accuracy because the original still exists. It just exists in Henry Ford's Greenfield Village. Now, according to legend, halfway through an 1843 trial in this place, Abraham Lincoln discovered that his client was actually lying, and he sent word to the judge he could no longer represent him because his client was dirty, and the judge was said to have remarked, Honest Abe. So, although this is not the original building, although it is full of really cool, amazing old artifacts and quill pens, and I particularly liked the wooden spittoon boxes filled with sand in there. A little bit disgusting, but also kind of awesome. But in this very place, this is where Abraham Lincoln got the nickname Honest Abe. Your Honor, my client is a scumbag and a scallywag, and I refuse to soil my name. Unlike that George Washington, I cannot tell a lie. Pretty cool. Very cool stuff. Very cool to think of Abraham Lincoln up here lawyering it up. But as we continue down old Route 66 into downtown Lincoln, the story gets weirder. Okay, first of all, Lincoln has a pretty cool historic district. It's an awesome, epic old railroad town. And of course, it was actually founded as a railroad town, which makes it perfectly appropriate that right here in front of Lincoln Station, there's an amazing monument to tell the story of the way the town of Lincoln got its name. It's this watermelon right here. See, it all began with the railroad coming through town and some enterprising local residents who asked Abraham Lincoln as an attorney to do the paperwork to create this new train stop, to create the new town. And since they had no other name in mind, they asked Lincoln if they could name the town after him, and Lincoln jokingly, supposedly replied, "You'd better not do that, for I never knew anything named Lincoln to amount to much." But name the town Lincoln they did, and Abraham Lincoln was not just the town's namesake, but they actually decided to have an opening ceremony and invite him back here to christen the new town. Humble as ever, he decided to keep the whole affair pretty tongue-in-cheek and used a cup of watermelon juice to do it. Something memorialized by this little concrete watermelon to this day. Now, I remember this watermelon being in a completely different spot. If I'm not crazy, I think they moved it over here to the train station. I just remember it being in the middle of nowhere, and this isn't exactly the middle of nowhere. We're right on the edge of downtown, and it was near this site he actually did the christening, so either I'm remembering it wrong or this watermelon gets around. See, here's the thing. Those Republicans, that early Republican Party, they were good at promotion, because during Lincoln's campaign for the presidency, they created that whole image of the humble rail splitter, when really by then Lincoln had been such a successful lawyer and a railroad lawyer. The man had already had a freaking town named after him. A town that would not just become a successful railroad stop, but a successful stop along old Route 66. And what in the city hall would you look at the size of that shield jutting right out of that building up there? And check this out. Look at that watermelon bench. As you can see, the new courthouse is just along this way up this historic district corridor. I love when you see exterior staircases like that in that alley right there. Like, what? They didn't have enough room to put a stairway inside? I also love those old alleys you see in the Midwest with the power lines, the telephone and telegraph wires. And we are in fact still right along old Route 66. It came right down here into the heart of downtown, right down into Courthouse Square. And boy, what a courthouse. Dude, before I take a left turn down old Route 66, I want to look around just a little bit more. It's a pretty massive downtown for such a tiny little town. Dude, look at that, it's closed, but look at that old Hallmark store sign still up there. See, now they should never remake Back to the Future. Let's start there. But if they ever did, they should find a town like this to do it in, right? I could picture lightning hitting that clock tower. Just amazing that at one point these small towns in America were building multi-story buildings. And look at the ornate post office over there. It's just incredible. And dude, this is why you walk around. We are not on old Route 66. Technically, that's a block away now, but look at this. Look at the size of that whiteout bottle in there. Oh my gosh, big mistake out indeed. Man, I could have used this in my life. A little bit of a weird art gallery in there. I wanted to go inside, but I think they're doing yoga right now with some very, very loud music bumping. Look at this bottle cap farmer guy. Oh, and then dang, right across from the courthouse on the other side. Look at that epic building, the arcade building. That is pretty cool, dude. Built in 1930, right at the end of downtown's 10-year on Route 66. So look at this. It really is an arcade, a covered walkway. Oh, and by the way, next door where the Sherman-Williams building is right now, Abraham Lincoln owned that lot of land. And not only that, he owned it while he was president. It passed on to his widow, Mary Todd Lincoln, then to his son, Robert Todd Lincoln. That is crazy right there. That land was in the Lincoln family. I passed through many times to look at the watermelon in the past, but I never knew how worth walking around it was here in downtown Lincoln. Just look at this town, man. It is ready for its close-up. This place should be in a movie. Dude, it even had a theater district. There's 2 old theaters right here, and look at the marquee on the Lincoln. I've got to be honest with you. I wish I still owned that paint store. All right, it's time to continue our journey down old Route 66 through the rest of town. Look at this though, we don't have far to go. We do not have far to drive down this road before we gotta pull over again. It's right over here on the edge of the downtown core. Not only do they have one of those Route 66 interpretive signs that are so handy in Illinois, but right across the street from a lovely public park where they have some watermelon themed playground features is this, a fun Lincoln photo op and the Route 66 Lincoln Donut. Oh, if only old Honest Abe could have seen this. I do see it, and I disapprove. Wow, dude, that is pretty cool. Lincoln, Illinois, a land of surprises. Look at this, right across the parking lot, you can get some Mel Cream donuts and coffee over here. Dude, I feel like a donut out here. Not because the reason I feel like a donut most of the time. I feel hot and roasted and fresh. It's sweltering. London gave up a long time ago. He's like, I'll look at it from the car. All right, we're rolling out, but not out of town entirely. There's still a couple more surprises. First of all, on the outskirts of town, near to the Walmart, look at this. It's the restored Tropics neon sign. Oh, look at that palm tree. Look at that beauty. It reminds me of Spike Marble. That is impressive. I've never seen it at night, but it's glorious night or something about those old signs, dude. Neon signs even in the day are amazing, but man, when they glow at night, ooh da la. Anyhow, I know this adventure is getting a little long. We just have one more epic stop to make before we take our leave of Lincoln, Illinois. It's just back down the wider 1940 to 1977 alignment of Route 66 as the largest covered wagon in the world. Wait a minute. What happened to the cover? Well, maybe it's the largest uncovered wagon in the world now. And look at this. It's jolly old self-taught lawyer, Mr. Abraham Lincoln, up there on the covered wagon, studying his law book. My friends, never worry about your lack of high school diploma or college education if you're willing to keep on reading. You too can become the 16th president of the United States. Oh my gosh, man, look at that. The wagon has a name too. It's the old rail splitter. Lincoln's got his trusty axe up here. Of course, that's how I cut down my political opponents. And it's hard to get a sense of just how massive this thing is because it's in this big open field next to that big massive highway, but this thing is huge, 25 feet high, with a 12-foot tall Abraham Lincoln that's double life size. It is absolutely massive, gargantuan even. I don't know what happened to the cover, but there it is, the world's largest covered wagon with the world's largest president, Abraham Lincoln. Seriously though, if they moved this thing to downtown Lincoln, you would realize just how huge it is. It's hard to get a sense of scale. Okay, there's some people coming up. You can kind of see just how large and grand that wagon is. Also, right across the field from it is the Days Inn. This place has been remodeled and reopened now as the Days Inn. It was something else before. I won't tell you exactly which brand, but that hotel has the distinction of being the only one in the United States where I went inside the room and lo and behold, I found bed bugs, which led me to a panicked middle of the night trip to Walmart for all kinds of sprays and stuff, even though we had barely set anything down. Poor Allie is traumatized for life. It was her first trip ever to Illinois, poor girl, and yeah, it was not very good. We drove all the way to Springfield to find another hotel. They didn't have a room, and they put us in the supply closet at the Route 66 motel. This is an old room with a bed in it with no blanket. So that was a night. All right, my friends, there you go. Giant Abraham Lincoln is where I'm gonna leave you here on old Route 66. We still have a little ways to go till we get to Chicago. There are more adventures ahead, and please, we would like to invite you to help support those adventures and make them possible by joining our Patreon, by sharing these videos with a friend, by liking, subscribing, hitting the thumbs up. Those things are free, and we also have a merch store at randomland.com. Mr. Lincoln never got a chance to read my book, Tales from Randomland, but you still have a chance to get a signed copy, as well as a Randomland hat, which I think is a little bit more fashionable than the stovepipe hat these days. Not that I'm biased or anything, but I'm just saying, they make you look handsome. London and I are gonna get some grub. We're gonna seek some shelter. I know this hotel's remodeled, but I still can't bring myself to stay there. Not quite yet, not quite yet. We're gonna say goodbye to Lincoln's uncovered wagon here and motel and sleep well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching all the way to the very end. You have done your duty. You can go home and sleep well. See you next time. All right, by the way, I walked over here in front of the Lincoln Library where they got the bookmobile parked out here charging, electric bookmobile, because I thought I spotted a statue of Mr. Abraham Lincoln. I don't think that's Abraham Lincoln. I don't know who that is, but I walked all the way over here for nothing. Help! Well, at least I can get a book. But that Capitol down there is the much more modern blah blah. Doo-ba-doo-doo-doo, doo-ba-doo-doo. Put a different help. What? Stop laughing, London. Look at all that. Wow. I hope Mary Todd Lincoln didn't have allergies. It is absolutely massive. I like this old truck sitting right neath. Neath?